Thank you for sticking it out with me here through this whole process of the voiceover. Now, as you can see, or you might not be able to see, this is, I'm going to attempt to do this step without a voiceover and just with the audio that comes with the video. The reason being is this part of the crayon making is typically pretty quiet, as long as I'm not dropping a bunch of stuff, which of course does happen sometimes. Now, that being said, it is still morning time during the day, and people are still going to work and school and everything like that. So there are definitely some background sounds and some background noise. If it gets to be too much, I will either edit it out, or if I'm able to, I'll edit it out. Otherwise, I will just have to do another voiceover. But we'll see. We'll give this a shot first. So the first thing I want to mention is what we've got here. So I'm sure you will recognize these two pins. We've got our blues, our reds, our whites, and our blacks, our Spider-Man colors. And this one, we have our pinks and yellow, well, some yellows, pinks, and peaches, and some purples and whites, and some sparkles, and these are our party colors. Now, I don't think I mentioned this before in the video, but this is an order that I'm actually making for a friend of mine for her children. That she placed the order to have these for their Easter baskets, and it's each of their names. So the one name we'll put here, and the other name we'll put here, and we'll do it just the way we've got it set up, just because it's easier. The other thing I want to mention is these molds stain really easily. I do clean them out pretty regularly with soaking and stuff, but you do still get, these little remnants of other crayon projects in there. I honestly think it adds to the authenticity of these being from recycled crayons, and being handmade. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that because you might be like, oh my goodness, what a mess! How's she gonna make crayons in that messy thing? But you'll see, it turns out a lot nicer than it looks. So let's start with our Spider-Man colors here. Now the first letter we are gonna do is B. And because this is a general theme, she just wanted Spider-Man colors. Sometimes I'll do each individual letter a different color of the theme, but for this one it just makes sense to do each one in a different multitude of colors here. So what I do is I just take these pieces. Now these, when I cut up and recycle from other crayons, other crayon shapes and letters, pieces do tend to keep the pieces quite a bit bigger, and the main reason is when I try to get them too small, I end up hurting myself with the clippers. So I'm trying to avoid that, especially now that I'm showing my hands to the public. Because for a while it was happening all the time just because I was not paying attention and being careless, trying to move too fast, and hand trimmers are always fun as well. But the crayon shapes and the crayon letters, because they're so dense and solid, they just are more difficult to cut than regular shaped crayons, like how they usually come in the pack and stuff. So as you'll see, even though it's up to the top here, I am still going to add a little bit more, because once the wax melts and the crayons melt, which really does not take very long when the oven is set to the proper temperature, it all sticks to the bottom, and obviously shrinks when it does that. So I always want to make sure that I kind of have probably about a quarter of an inch above the mold, and not give or take a quarter of an inch above the surface of the mold, so that when they do melt, you still have half wax and half color. And I kind of figured it out on my own when I went to a vendor show. And I had put out some of the just like sample crayons for the kids to color with on this big roll of like, paper. And I had to explain to each one of them, even the grown-ups too, that you have to use the opposite side of the crayon, like the top part of the crayon, to color, and the bottom part would usually not color because of the wax. Now, it's usually not an issue now because there's such a small thin layer of wax that separates on the bottom. Sometimes there's not any at all. So, you know, it usually wears down pretty quickly, or, you know, it's not a big deal, but in the beginning it took a while. I did a lot of research and tried to figure out why I was doing wrong, and it turns out that I was heating them for too long. Basically, if you leave them in the oven for too long, that's when they start to separate. So what you do is you set the oven you preheat the oven for 250 degrees. Once it's at 250 degrees, you'll put your filled up mold in. You know, once it's got all the crayons that you want in there. But I got this really large baking sheet. I got this specifically because I was getting so many orders and having to just constantly switch out the different smaller cooking baking sheets was just taking forever. So these are my two biggest molds. So for this project, I could only fit two on here. I do have two smaller baking sheets like this, but they're smaller. But for the most part, my other molds I can usually fit 5, 6, sometimes even more, depending on the size of this tray, and I can just get them all done at once. But the trick is to put them in. I set my timer. It varies. I've gotten pretty used to figuring out, I've got good timing it for different thicker, more dense projects like my ball prints that I do, or even some of my letter projects. Of course, need to go in for a little bit longer. But my biggest word of advice is start low. So as far as setting your timer, if you're not exactly sure, 10 minutes. I would not put it in for any more than 10 minutes. If you're only doing something like one letter or one little shape, you can probably start 5 minutes at 250. Once the 10 minutes has passed, or the 5 minutes passed, make sure you set your timer, obviously, for your oven. Timer goes off. You want to check them out regardless of whether they're melted or not. Obviously, it's going to be very hot, so definitely need your oven mitts, or whatever you use to take things out of the oven. But you'll check it, and I'll show you in the last segment of this series. I will show you what I'm talking about when I say it's not fully melted, but it is melted enough to come out of the oven. Because if you leave them in there until they're like melted completely into a liquid, you really do get that separation and you lose a lot of the pigment. But again, I'll show you when we get to that stuff. So let's get back to adding our colors here. The next color is going to be our say at least 24 hours, if not longer, depending on how bad they are, how dirty they are. Alright, and I'm thinking we might end up, depending on how these come out, but we might end up having to reheat these with some more white in them because I feel like there is a lot more blue in here than I realized. I feel like the black and the blue, if I add any more of those two colors, it'll just wash out all of the other colors because they're so dark and there's so much blue already. So I think white will help. A lot of times I only use white as a filler because obviously white creates a color on my paper, so I use it as a filler and kind of a blender. I'll cut the white into little tiny pieces. That's one color that I usually cut into small pieces. Usually, not always, but usually, because of what I use it for. And I just kind of learned these things on my own. There might be a place that does these, that does like instructional videos and different techniques and stuff, and I'm sure there is. I just happen to kind of learn as I went along. Alright, to put one more little guy in here. I'll put this red and black. It's just a slight hint of white, but it's mostly red and black. Okay. Maybe I'll put this guy over here. There we go. See, there's more that goes into it than you probably thought. Because you can't just, the average person would just just put in crayons, pop them in the oven and take them out, and color up with them. But sometimes it's really easy because I really do pride myself on quality and customer service. Like they're two of my major selling points. I really want to make sure that my customers are getting even more than what they expected if they asked for. So, B-R-Y-C, and the last letter of this name is E. See, like I said, that could have been a little air pocket, a hole there, but I did that before it became one and put hiding underneath. Alright, almost done, and then I'll have to show you what I mean when you fill them up too high, and I'll also show you, I definitely am going to show you what happens when you don't fill it up high enough, because neither is really what you're looking for. You want to get that, like, Goldilocks spot, not too high, not too cold, so not too high, not too low. But it's a learning curve for sure, because even if you look, read about it online, different crayons, different crayon colors, different crayon companies have different densities, so it really is sometimes just guessing. I typically use myself just a couple. There's two brands that I use quite often, and of course now I'm drawing it blank, but I can put them, I'll put them up here, and I can also put them in the description if I remember. I'm really bad about remembering that, but I'll at least put it in the video, the name of the company. But again, none of what I'm doing here is an advertisement, but definitely wanted to give some kudos to those two companies because they really have been so dependable and like hardy and bright and vibrant. So anyway, like I said, I'll put that in there for you. So we've got the B-R-Y-C-E. Now, if you put too much in, and I'll just do an L because it doesn't up too high. So too much. You're just piling it in like that. And this is kind of stuff that I was doing when I first started also. It's just like, the first time I made them, I didn't put nearly enough in. The second time I made them, I put way too much, and, I am stubborn as a mule, and don't always like to read instructions first, or anything like that. Just typically learn as I go, which has been an expensive lesson to learn. But as I've gotten older, like I said, it's getting expensive. I had to start reading directions more, so once I realized I was really screwing these up, I stopped and read the directions. So this is an example of it being filled up way too high, actually, and the only reason I put it here, I was going to say it's too close, but the reason I put it here is because it's all the same colors anyway. So if some of that bleeds into the sea, it's okay because it's all the same colors, and you can touch up the edges and stuff once it's cooled down. So that's if you fill it up too high. As you can see, it's about another half finger higher than it should be. On the other hand, if you don't fill it up high enough, this is how I first did it. There you go. We'll do Let's see. Yeah, a little bit more. There we go. The next letter is A. Just a little bit over here. Try to get up here. There we go. Okay. This one back over with the blue and red. These are, there's quite a few different shades of colors in this one, and there were Spider-Man colors. So I am just trying to make sure I am divvying everything up appropriately, so we're not heavier on one color than another, or just doesn't look uneven or anything like that. The reason why I mix these up. And the other great thing about reusing these other crayons and into new crayons is the glitter. You don't have to put on as much new, you don't have to put in as much new glitter, if any at all. I'm going to try to do this without adding any glitter first, and we'll see, which not only saves a lot of time and a bit of a headache for me as the artist, but it also saves anybody else, like the parents and stuff, from having to clean out the glitter that falls off the crayons. Now, a lot of times I do put glitter on as I'm making them, and you know, it's just requested, and they kind of, you know what you're getting when you're asking for it. But when I do these, and you know, the glitter's being rebaked in, it tends to just stick under that, like those first couple layers of crayon, which is, did not realize it did that until very recently, which is why I'm trying it on this one, because I haven't tried it yet. And the next letter, we got our H, we got our A, what was I doing? There, A. The next letter is I, and definitely, yeah, sorry, I was thinking out loud here. Get some of this red and green out of there. And I'm hoping that I don't need to add any additional glitter or any additional colors or shades or highlights to this Barbie colors, but we'll see. And I mean, she called them Barbie colors. They are for a crayon set that I made that was Barbie themed for a friend of my daughter's, actually a friend of my son's, but and this is where a lot of those crayons came from, because I made a couple of batches inside of they turned out so cool. Okay, should be good. Yeah. And the next letter is L. Yeah, should be good there. Nothing too crazy going on in there. That, I'm gonna use that one. It's a little bit too much purple. There we go. And we are getting there, folks. It is a more tedious process than anybody realizes, because I am putting a lot of thought into them. Like that is a business that I am running and trying to grow. And I want my customers and the kiddos who receive these crayons to be happy. And of course, to come back next time they need a gift or something along those lines. And it's getting to the point now that, you know, people within the community have been recognizing the different craft shows and fairs that I go to, which is really very cool, because that's what I'm trying to do, is really build up a clientele. Now, this might be a little bit high, but I'm not putting any letters near it, so I'm gonna leave it be for now. The next letter is E. And there's that purple.